Hello, and welcome to my build guide to the Executioner, Overlord. This build will be centered around Overpowered and Deathblow. Thanks to the new vampiric powers and class changes, it should be easy to proc Overpower. However, with that being said, this build is just a theory and I have not been able to test it out yet. But now that the weekend's here, I'm excited to jump in and get things started. Alright, so let's get started on the skills. But if you find the video format hard to follow along, I'll leave a link in the description below to my build which will give you a full breakdown of the skills, items, and stats. Alright, so for our first skill, I'm going to take Frenzy, although you could go for whatever you like here. I just personally like the attack speed and the damage reduction that I get from Combat Frenzy. But you could go for Lunge and Strike if you prefer the mobility. And for our core skill, we're going to want to go with Rend here. And that's because you want to have a spender that we can spam. And thanks to Fierce Rend, we will get some resources back when we hit enemy. It's important that we have a way to quickly spend 100 Fury to proc one of our aspects, which I'll go into more detail later on. Next up, we're going to get Rallying Cry, as this is a great way to generate resources, give us Unstoppable, and Fortify. We'll also want to take Iron Skin, and when paired with one of the aspects, it will give us Unstoppable, as well as Fortify. And now for our main damage dealer, we're going to go and max out Deathblow. We will want to get Warrior's Deathblow so that it can proc the new unique helmet. And lastly, for our ultimate, we're going to go with Wrath of the Berserker. Thanks to the new changes in Season 2, Berserker is now a really powerful multiplier. Next, we will quickly go over the passives, and I won't go into too much detail as they will work in the background and you don't actively have to do anything to get them to work. So first, we're going to get Martial Vigor at 3 ranks, Aggressive Resistance at 3 ranks, Imposing Presence at 3 ranks, Prolific Fury at 3 ranks, Pit Fighter at 3 ranks, No Mercy at 1 rank, Exposed Vulnerability at 3 ranks, Concussion at 1 rank, Thick Skin at 3 ranks, Defensive Stance at 3 ranks, Counter-Offensive at 3 ranks, Wall Up at 3 ranks, Brute Force at 3 ranks, and finally for our key passive, we're going to go with Unconstrained. Now for the items. First, let's go over the armor. In the helmet slot, we're going to go with a new unique helmet that they added in Season 2. Tusk Helm of Jorts the Mighty. When you gain Berserking, while already Berserk, gain % chance to enrage and gain X amount of damage and 2 Fury per second, as well as 10% cooldown reduction. Thanks to Warrior's Deathblow, it should be relatively easy to proc this helmet. On our gloves, we're going to go for Weapon Master aspect, as this will give us an additional charge of Deathblow. For our chest, we're going to go for Aspect of the Iron Warrior for Unstoppable. And as you might notice, this build has a lot of ways of becoming unstoppable. And this is important so that we can proc our unique pants, Tybelt's Will, which is a huge damage multiplier, and you gain Fury when becoming unstoppable. Lastly, for our boots, we're going to go with Ghostwalker. For our one-handed weapons, we're going to go for Battle Mad aspect to help proc our helmet, and Earth Striker's aspect to proc Overpowered. And for our two-handed slashing weapon, we are going to go and get Aspect of the Encroaching Wrath. After spending 100 Fury, gain 200% increased damage Deathblow. This is why we want to find ways to spend 100 Fury, and Rend is the easiest way to get this done. And to really make this build work, you're going to want to get Overkill, as this will greatly increase our AoE and more easily reset our cooldown on Deathblow. All the weapon sockets will be socketed with Ruby for overpowered damage. For our rings and amulets, we're going to go with Aspect of Berserker for Fury regeneration, Slacking Aspect, which allows us to spam Rend more often, and in our amulet, we're going to go for Aspect of the Might. Because we sacrifice a lot of defensive in favor of damage uniques, we need to make up for that, and the only way to do that right now is slot a defensive aspect in our amulet. And for the sockets, we're going to slot whatever our lowest resistance is. Or if everything is about even, you can put a diamond instead. Next, we're going to go over the new vampiric powers. First, we're going to get Metamorphosis for Unstoppable, Anticipation for cooldown on our ultimate and damage increase, Sanguine Brace for Fortify, Blood Boil for the overpower guaranteed, and Humancy for the AoE damage. And for our stat priority, we're going to go with Resistance, as this is now a very important stat in Season 2. And we're going to try to max it out at 70%. And then we're going to go with Max Health. This will increase our survivability, but also scales with our Humancy vampiric power. Cooldown reduction to get more uptime on our death blow and ultimate. Damage while berserking, as this is now a multiplier. Movement speed, overpowered. Damage while fortified, as this should be very easy to achieve. Damage reduction, total armor percentage, main stat, attack speed, crit chance, berserk duration, resource regeneration, max fury. And if you look at the build planner, you'll see where the stats go on each item. And let's go over the glyphs and legendary nodes now. First, let's go over the glyphs. We're going to go with Ire for berserk damage and damage reduction, Undaunted for damage while fortified and damage reduction, Crusher for overpowered damage, and lastly, Territorial for damage to close enemies and damage reduction. And for our legendary nodes, we're going to go and get Blood Rage to help proc our helmet, Bonebreaker for another guaranteed overpowered, Weapon Master for Fury Generation, and lastly, Decimator for the damage multiplier. And that's it for this build. I'll make a follow-up video at level 50 to see what the mid game's like, and another one at 100 to see if this build will hold up at the end game. Thanks for watching.